Hello all, I am the Whole and Phantom, and in honor of it being Halloween today, I'm going to be going over my top 10 picks of Gengar cards in the trading card game. Starting off at number 10, we've got Gengar from Fossil, the original Gengar card. This card came with 1 Pokemon power and 1 attack. The Pokemon power was Curse, which allowed it to move 1 damage counter from one of the opponent's Pokemon to another one of their Pokemon. And the attack was Dark Mind. It needed 3 Psychic Energies to deal 30 damage, and also deal 10 damage to one of the opponent's benched Pokemon. And because of its typing, it could even one-hit KO 2 of the most popular Pokemon in the format, Mewtwo and Hitmonchan, as they are both weak to psychic attacks, and as long as Gengar used its Curse Pokemon power to move a damage counter onto them, or simply using a plus power. Unfortunately, as a Stage 2 Pokemon, Gengar was a little slow to set up, and was easy fodder for energy removal and super energy removal. So Dark Vileplume was a good partner for it because it could shut down all trainer cards. Gengar took a while to get set up, but if you had multiple in play, you can use a combination of their Pokemon powers and their attacks to knock out most things on the opponent's side of the field. At number 9, we've got Gengar from Breakthrough. This Gengar was released during the 6th generation of cards. It came with 2 attacks. The first attack was Sinister Fog, which needed 1 Psychic Energy to then poison the opponent and also put 1 damage counter on all the opponent's benched Pokemon. And the second attack was Creepshow. It needed 1 Psychic Energy and 1 Colorless Energy to automatically knock out the opposing Pokemon if it had at least 3 damage counters on it. Gengar's attacks worked well together, but it took a while to get set up because you would need to use Sinister Fog at least 3 times to set up the necessary damage counters, and then a 4th attack to actually start taking knockouts. Which is why it needed support from Pokemon like the Crobat line to set up damage counters, as their abilities put damage counters on the opponent's side of the field without using the attack for the turn. Or with the Stadium's Frozen City and Team Magma's Secret Base, as their effects could also spread damage to the opponent. But unfortunately, running 2 Stage 2 lines in one deck was a little slow for the format, and Gengar never really took off despite having a really good attack. Comparatively, there was an Untitled GX card that came out in the 7th generation, and it had a pretty similar attack to Gengar in Doom Count GX, as that attack could knock out any Pokemon as long as it had exactly 4 damage counters on it. So it was definitely more restrictive than Gengar's attack, plus it was a GX attack, meaning that it could only be used once per game. So Gengar's attack was definitely the better of the two, it just didn't see enough play because it didn't have the necessary support to see it succeed, as the Veltal GX had access to Galarian Zigzagoon, which could put a damage counter on the opponent's Pokemon as soon as it came into play. Plus it had access to Scoop Up Net, which could recycle Galarian Zigzagoon's ability a couple times per turn. Unfortunately, this Gengar is just one of those cards that fell through the cracks, because if it had access to better support, it could have been a top deck. Coming in at number 8, we've got Gengar Ex from Fire Red and Leaf Green. This is one of the EX cards from the 3rd generation. It came with 2 attacks. The first attack was Poltergeist, which needed 1 Psychic Energy and 1 Colorless Energy to deal a base 40 damage, plus 10 more damage for every trainer in the opponent's hand. And the second attack was Prize Count. It needed 2 Psychic Energies and 1 Colorless Energy to deal a base 60 damage, plus 40 more if the player had more prizes left than the opponent. The second attack's effect could be triggered by using Electrode EX's Pokepower Extra Energy Bomb, as it would knock itself out and then accelerate energy. And even its first attack could deal a lot of damage, it just depended on how many trainer cards the opponent had in their hand. And Gengar was actually pretty good in the 2-on-2 format because it could partner with Vileplume EX, as its Pokebody could shut down all trainer cards in the opponent's hand. At number 7, we've got Gengar Ex from Phantom Forces. This card was released in the 6th generation, and it was a basic Pokemon so it didn't have to evolve, but it was also released alongside its Mega Evolution, Mega Gengar Ex. And also, as an aside, I wanted to include Mega Gengar in this list because it's one of my favorite Mega Pokemon, but it's just so bad. Why? But anyways, back to Gengar Ex. It came with 2 attacks. The first attack was Night Attack, which needed 1 Colorless Energy to put 3 damage counters in the opponent's Pokemon. And the second attack was Dark Corridor, which needed 1 Psychic Energy and 2 Colorless Energies to deal 60 damage, poison the opponent, and then switch out. Its second attack was good, because it allowed it to switch out into disruptive Pokemon, like Trevenant to lock all items, or Wobbuffet to lock abilities, and then the player could give them a Floatstone to retreat for free the next turn, and then continue the process all over again. Plus, Gengar could also be supported by the Stadium's Verbank City Gym to deal extra damage through Poison, or Dimension Valley to make its attacks cheaper. All in all, Gengar Ex is a pretty good Pokemon, and it saw competitive success in the 6th generation formats. At number 6, we've got Gengar Level X from Arceus. This is one of the Level X Pokemon released in the 4th generation. It came with the Pokepower and 1 attack. The Pokepower was Level Down, which allowed her to shuffle away a Level X Pokemon once per turn. And the attack was Compound Pain, which needed 2 Psychic Energies and 1 Colorless Energy to deal 30 damage to each Pokemon with damage counters already on it. Though as a Level X Pokemon, Gengar had access to the attacks of its previous form, and in the format it had 3 good Gengar cards to choose from, so we'll get into those later in this list. On its own, Gengar Level X is a good Pokemon, but its real role was to make other cards even better, as it could give them more HP, a good attack that could spread damage, and a useful Poke Power that would level down some of the opponent's Pokemon. Especially if the opponent had any Pokemon with harsh Poke Bodies like Dialga Level X, giving Gengar an extra bit of utility. At number 5, we got Gengar from Arceus, another 4th generation Gengar card. It came with 1 Poke Power and 1 attack. The Poke Power was Curse, which is the same as a fossil Gengar, allowing it to move a damage counter between opponents' Pokemon. And the attack was Shadow Skip, which needed 2 Psychic Energies and 1 Colorless to deal 60 damage, and also 10 damage to one of the opponent's bench Pokemon, and then Gengar could switch out of the active spot. Like Gengar Ex from Phantom Forces, this Gengar's Shadow Skip attack let it switch out into disruptive Pokemon, like Spiritomb to lock down the opponent's trainer cards. But if the player already had Vileplume to lock down trainer cards, Gengar could switch out into Mr. Mime, as its Pokebody could negate all damage as long as the opposing Pokemon had 2 or fewer energy cards attached to it. And if Mr. Mime had evolved from Mime Jr., it would negate all damage regardless of how much energy the opposing Pokemon had. At number 4, we've got Gengar from Triumphant. This was one of the prime Pokemon from the Heart Gold and Soul Silver sets. It came with 1 Pokebody and 2 attacks. The Pokebody was Catastrophe, which activated when Gengar was the active Pokemon, and would send KO'd Pokemon to the Lost Zone instead of the discard pile. Its first attack was Hurl into Darkness, which needed 1 Psychic Energy to then look at the opponent's hand, and send Pokemon equal to the number of energy cards attached to Gengar to the Lost Zone. And the second attack was Curse Drop, which needed 1 Psychic Energy and 1 Colorless Energy to then put 4 damage counters anywhere on the opponent's side of the field. This Gengar was designed to work with Lost World, as Lost World would automatically win the game for the player if the opponent had at least 6 Pokemon in their Lost Zone, and Gengar's Pokebody and attacks made accomplishing that goal a lot easier. Though it was the first attack that was primarily used, as it could easily load up the opponent's Lost Zone with Pokemon. And if the opponent tried to bench their Pokemon to get them out of the hand, Seeker could be used with Gengar to pick them back up. With a unique win condition that didn't focus on taking prizes, this Gengar made a strong deck in the Generation 4 format. At number 3, we've got Gengar and Mimikyu Gx from Team Up, a tag team Pokemon from the 7th generation. It came with 2 attacks. The first attack was Poltergeist, which needed 2 Psychic Energies to deal 50 damage times the number of trainer cards in the opponent's hand. And the second attack was Horror House GX, which needed 1 Psychic Energy to then prevent the opponent from playing any cards during their next turn, and if this card had at least 1 extra energy attached, both players would draw until they had 7 cards in hand. Horror House was meant to set up for Poltergeist, giving the opponent more trainer cards in their hand that they couldn't play, plus it also worked well with Omastar to item lock the opponent, raising the attack power of Poltergeist. Most recently, Gengar and Mimikyu were used in Shadow Rider Calyrex decks to stall for a turn with Horror House, giving the player an extra turn of Underworld Door abilities, and maybe even win immediately if the opponent only had 1 Pokemon on their side of the field. At number 2, we've got Dark Gengar from Neo Destiny, part of the Dark Pokemon series. It came with 1 Pokemon Power and 1 attack. The Pokemon Power was Deep Sleep, which made it so that sleeping Pokemon had to flip 2 heads in between turns instead of just 1 to wake up. And the attack was Pull In, which needed 3 Psychic Energies to deal 30 damage and put the opponent to sleep, but before doing damage it also had the option of bringing up a benched Pokemon to attack. This attack was great to use against baby Pokemon, as it could bypass their protection ability if they were benched and easily knock them out. Plus, it was also good for stalling, as the opponent's Pokemon would only have a 25% chance to wake up between turns. Dark Gengar could combo well with Noctowl, as its Pokemon Power would take away trainer cards from the opponent's hand, leaving them without options to switch out their sleeping Pokemon from the active spot. Gengar's Pokemon Power also comboed really well with Misdreavus, as it could easily knock out sleeping Pokemon with its Perish Song attack. Dark Gengar was a strong deck in its format, and its combination of Disruption and Power could easily take down a lot of Pokemon if they weren't prepared for it. And finally at number 1, we've got Gengar from Stormfront, yet another Pokemon from the 4th generation. It came with a Poke Power and 2 attacks. The Poke Power was Fainting Spell, which activated when Gengar was knocked out by an attack, and would then flip a coin, and if it got heads, the opponent's Pokemon would also be automatically knocked out. The first attack was Shadow Room, which needed 1 Psychic Energy, and would then place 3 damage counters on any Pokemon on the opponent's side, or 6 damage counters if that Pokemon had a Poke Power. And the second attack was Poltergeist, which needed a Psychic Energy and a Colorless Energy to deal 30 damage times the number of trainer cards in the opponent's hand. The first attack comboed really well with Crobat G to knock out common support Pokemon like the Lake Guardians and Claydol. And the second attack could be used alongside a Vileplume, as its Pokebody could lock down all trainer cards, letting Gengar hit for huge numbers. And Fainting Spell was a great Pokepower to revenge KO a lot of Pokemon no matter how much HP they had left, but Gengar also had to be careful as the ability would only activate if it was knocked out from damage by an attack, so if it was knocked out from poison damage, Fainting Spell would not activate, which is why Nidoqueen made the perfect partner, as it could continuously heal Gengar and negate any residual poison damage. With the ability to spread damage with Shadow Room, hit for high numbers with Poltergeist, and revenge KO Pokemon with Fainting Spell, Gengar was one of the strongest Pokemon in the 2009 format, making it all the way to the World Championships. Which is why it has come in at number 1 on this list. Which is your favorite Gengar card? Let me know down in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe to catch new videos. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, this is the Hole and Phantom saying Happy Halloween.